In every boardroom battle, every heated negotiation, every moment of confrontation, there's an invisible war happening that determines who wins before a single word is spoken. It's not about who's right or who has the better argument. It's about who appears more composed, more controlled, more unshakable. This is the dark reality of human nature that Machiavelli understood when he wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. And it's exactly why some people effortlessly command respect, while others, despite being right, are dismissed and overlooked. The nature of power and perception. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand. Those words by Niccolò Machiavelli reveal one of the most unsettling truths about human nature, that the world rarely rewards those who are right, but instead, those who appear to be right. The same is true in confrontation. In the heat of a clash, people do not see your intentions, your inner logic, or your moral purity. They see your composure, your posture, your control. And from that perception, they decide who holds the power. So what does it really mean to stay unshaken? It's not about being emotionless. It's about controlling the image of yourself that others consume. When confrontation erupts, in the boardroom, in a negotiation, or even in personal conflict, your mind races, your body tenses, your pulse betrays your calm. But those who understand the nature of power know this. Perception is power. You do not need to defeat the opponent's argument. You need to make them doubt their own strength in front of your stillness. Machiavelli, who watched princes rise and fall under the weight of their own pride, understood that power is not a thing you hold in your hand. It's a thing you project. A prince who panics loses the loyalty of his soldiers. A leader who trembles loses the faith of his followers. The perception of strength creates real strength because human beings by nature are drawn to confidence and repelled by uncertainty. In confrontation, this principle becomes your greatest advantage. When someone challenges you, their goal is simple: to provoke reaction. They want to see you flinch. The first person to react emotionally loses the higher ground because emotion exposes vulnerability. Machiavelli would tell you that people do not seek truth in conflict. They seek hierarchy. Who is above and who is beneath? When you stay unshaken, even for a few seconds longer than your opponent, you quietly claim the throne of authority in that moment. You might wonder, why does this illusion matter so much? Because humans navigate the world through stories, not facts. The story they tell themselves when they see you calm under pressure is this: he knows something I don't. And that single thought can shift the entire power dynamic in your favor. The perception of knowledge becomes indistinguishable from actual knowledge. Your silence becomes a language of command. Your restraint becomes a form of dominance. In The Prince, Machiavelli warned that rulers who expose their fears invite rebellion. The same principle applies to any confrontation. Whether in politics or personal life, to appear unsettled is to grant permission for others to question your control. Power depends on the belief of others. The moment they stop believing, you stop ruling. That's why every gesture, every breath in conflict must be deliberate. You don't merely stand firm, you perform firmness. You don't simply appear calm, you create calm as a weapon. Think about this. A lion doesn't need to roar to be feared. Its silence, its steady stare, is enough to paralyze prey. The power lies in perception, in how others interpret your behavior. Machiavelli would call this the art of seeming. Not the art of lying, but the art of crafting an image so powerful that it directs others' behavior before you even speak. In confrontation, your image becomes your fortress. It shields you, even when the ground beneath you shakes. But make no mistake, this control is not effortless. It's calculated. Every inch of calmness you display must be deliberate. You must train yourself to endure the pressure of silence, to resist the instinct to defend or explain. Explanation is a subtle confession. The moment you explain, you reveal that the other person's judgment matters to you. Machiavelli would smirk at that, because dependence on approval is the first crack in your armor. Instead, when faced with hostility, you observe. You let the other speak, gesture, reveal their emotions, expose their intentions. While they unravel themselves, you remain composed. Your stillness makes them uneasy. They start to question their approach, their words, even their confidence. And once they start questioning themselves, you have already won the psychological war without raising your voice. Power, in its rawest form, is a performance of stability. People follow those who appear certain, even when that certainty is an illusion. Machiavelli understood that humans crave order, and in confrontation, calmness is order. It reassures the uncertain and intimidates the aggressive. That's why remaining unshaken is not simply an act of self-control. It's an act of leadership. You dictate the emotional temperature of the room. When others lose balance, you become the axis around which their chaos spins. Consider how this plays out in everyday life. In a meeting, when accusations fly, the one who pauses, listens, and speaks slowly commands attention. In a personal argument, the one who refuses to escalate sets the boundary of reason. Their calmness spreads like smoke, forcing others to adapt. This is the invisible influence Machiavelli admired. Not the rule of the sword, but the rule of perception. The kind of power that needs no title, no threat, no noise. To master this, you must first master how you are seen. Every confrontation is a stage, and you are both actor and strategist. Your expressions, your voice, your silence, all communicate dominance or weakness before words even begin. Machiavelli would remind you that appearances may deceive, but they also decide. In the theater of human conflict, perception doesn't just shape reality, it replaces it. So, when you face confrontation, do not focus on proving your strength, focus on showing it. The appearance of control is control. The perception of certainty becomes certainty. And when others begin to believe you cannot be shaken, they will stop trying to shake you. The mastery of composure. The one who can command himself commands the world. In the realm of confrontation, this is not a poetic idea. It is a weapon. Machiavelli understood that the man who masters his composure masters perception, and perception shapes every victory. To remain unshaken is not about being cold or indifferent. It is about transforming your emotions into tools that serve your purpose instead of sabotaging it. The art of composure is not a gift. It is a discipline sharpened through self-control, observation, and ruthless awareness of human nature. When conflict erupts, the first instinct of most people is to react. They raise their voice, they defend, they justify. But Machiavelli would remind us that reaction is surrender disguised as strength. Every emotional outburst you display tells your opponent one thing: that they have influence over you. And influence, in confrontation, is the first seed of defeat. To be composed is to deny them that power. It is to say, without words, "You cannot reach me." Imagine this. Two adversaries stand before each other. One trembles with anger. The other stands silent, eyes calm, posture firm. The room feels the difference. One loses control to emotion. The other commands the silence. That silence is not emptiness. It is domination. Machiavelli observed that people fear what they cannot predict. Composure makes you unreadable. It makes others guess your intentions, doubt their strategy, question their certainty, and in that uncertainty, they hesitate. That hesitation becomes your advantage. To master composure, one must first understand what it truly represents. It is not the absence of feeling, it is the harnessing of it. The calm exterior hides a calculating interior. When Machiavelli advised rulers to appear merciful, faithful, humane, sincere, and religious, he did not mean to be all those things. He meant to appear as such when it serves your purpose. In confrontation, appearing calm does not mean you are not boiling within. It means you have learned to direct that fire inward, using it to sharpen your focus rather than cloud your judgment. Think of composure as armor, not rigid but flexible, forged through self-discipline. It allows you to stand firm when provoked, to delay reaction until every emotion has been filtered through reason. Those who lack this armor are slaves to impulse. They confuse motion with progress, anger with authority, passion with power. Machiavelli saw through this illusion. He knew that true rulers do not chase control, they radiate it. Their restraint speaks louder than the shouts of their enemies. There is a subtle power in the controlled pause, that moment when you refuse to respond immediately. Most confrontations are traps built on timing. The aggressor strikes not to wound you, but to provoke your movement. If you move first, you reveal your hand. But when you pause, when you stand still and study, you reverse the trap. The aggressor grows uneasy. They begin to fill the silence with words, explanations, mistakes. In trying to dominate you, they overexpose themselves. And while they do, you are already planning your next move with precision. Machiavelli would call this the art of delay. He often advised rulers that patience is not weakness, but a weapon disguised as stillness. The lion and the fox, two creatures he often invoked, both know this instinctively. The lion's strength is nothing without the fox's patience. In confrontation, you must carry both. The quiet calculation of the fox and the restrained confidence of the lion. You must know when to wait and when to strike. Composure gives you that control. It grants you time, and time in conflict is the currency of power. Now understand this, composure does not mean inaction. Many mistake calmness for passivity, but Machiavelli's calm is predatory. It observes, it measures, it plans. The composed mind is always thinking 3 steps ahead, even while the body remains still. To those watching, you appear untouchable, a statue among storms. But within, every word, every movement, every silence is being weighed and used. Composure turns chaos into clarity. It turns confrontation into chess. And here lies the secret that most never learn. Composure is contagious. When you remain calm in a room full of noise, others instinctively adjust to your rhythm. Your stillness becomes the center of gravity. People begin to measure their tone, their pace, even their arguments around you. In that moment, you are no longer part of the confrontation. You are directing it. This is how influence is born, not from shouting louder, but from standing firmer. Machiavelli would likely smirk at modern men who pride themselves on being authentic in conflict, those who believe showing every emotion makes them strong. He would say that such authenticity is foolishness. Power is not about showing your truth, it is about controlling which truth others are allowed to see. The mastery of composure is not deceit, it is strategy. It is the art of being in control even when you are under siege, and in the game of power, control is everything. Think of how many wars, arguments, and careers have been lost to a single moment of uncontrolled reaction. One word spoken in anger, one rash decision, one visible crack in composure. That's all it takes for perception to shift. Machiavelli would remind you that appearances are fragile. Once you appear shaken, even for a second, the illusion of strength begins to crumble. The wise ruler, therefore, practices restraint not as an occasional act, but as a way of existence. To cultivate this mastery, you must train in discomfort. You must let yourself be tested by insults, by pressure, by confrontation, and resist the instinct to defend or retaliate. Each time you do, your composure hardens, your presence strengthens. You learn to stand in the fire without being burned. You learn to see beyond the heat of emotion into the strategy beneath it. And when you can do that, you no longer play the game of confrontation. You design it. The mastery of composure transforms conflict from a threat into a tool. It allows you to bend tension to your will, to disarm opponents without speaking, to dictate the atmosphere of any room you walk into. This is not serenity for peace's sake. It is serenity for power's sake. It is the silent authority that makes others question themselves before they dare to question you. The calculation behind every move. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. Machiavelli understood that power does not belong to the loud or the emotional. It belongs to the calculated. Every confrontation, no matter how spontaneous it seems, is a battlefield of decisions. And those who act without calculation are not fighting an opponent. They are fighting their own impulses. To remain unshaken, one must understand that composure alone is not enough. Calmness must be paired with strategy, because stillness without thought is paralysis, but stillness guided by calculation is control. Imagine this. You're facing someone who challenges your authority, maybe a rival in business, a superior questioning your competence, or a friend turned adversary. Most people enter such moments armed with emotion and pride. They want to win now, to prove themselves now. But Machiavelli would remind you, confrontation is not a single moment. It is a sequence of moves, a game of positioning, where victory belongs to the one who plans beyond the next reaction. The calculated mind does not seek immediate triumph, it seeks eventual dominance. To calculate is to delay the satisfaction of being right for the reward of being powerful. The fool rushes to speak first, defend first, strike first, believing that speed equals strength. The strategist studies, listens, and waits for the moment when every word will have maximum impact. Machiavelli would whisper that timing is the hidden architecture of power. He knew that Eve, and truth spoken too soon, can be useless. The art lies not in what you do, but when you do it. In The Prince, Machiavelli observed that fortune favors those who prepare for its storms. The same rule governs confrontation. You must anticipate before you act. Every move, every response, every silence must be chosen like a step on a chessboard. You do not simply react to what is before you, you think 3 steps ahead. What will they say next? How will they interpret your stillness? What happens if you agree now, only to strike later? This kind of thinking is not paranoia. It is the foundation of strategy. It keeps your emotions from driving your behavior and ensures that every gesture serves your long game. Machiavelli would call this the power of foresight. He believed that luck is nothing more than preparation meeting opportunity. In confrontation, those who calculate do not leave outcomes to chance. They create them. They manipulate appearances, guide conversations, and shape reactions. Every word becomes a move. Every silence becomes a question mark in the opponent's mind. The confrontation to them is not chaos. It's choreography. But make no mistake, this calculation requires cold honesty with yourself. You must strip away pride and ego to see the field clearly. Most people lose because they fight for validation, not victory. They want to be understood, to be seen as good, fair, or justified. Machiavelli would say that this desire is fatal. The moment you seek fairness, you hand over power. The calculated player understands that confrontation is not about fairness. It's about advantage. You win not by proving your worth, but by positioning yourself so that others must acknowledge it. Calculation also means controlling the tempo of the confrontation. The person who sets the rhythm of interaction controls the direction of the outcome. Sometimes this means slowing things down, forcing your opponent to grow impatient, to overplay their hand. Other times, it means striking quickly when they are unprepared. Machiavelli compared this to warfare. The general who moves too soon reveals his army, but the one who hesitates too long loses the field. In both war and confrontation, the timing of your move is the invisible thread that holds victory together. A key part of Machiavellian calculation is the mask. The mask allows you to act while appearing still, to plan while appearing calm, to influence while appearing detached. Those around you see only what you allow them to see, never your strategy, never your intention. He taught that deception is not inherently evil. It is a necessary shield for survival in a world ruled by perception. To calculate, then, is to play multiple layers of truth at once. What you show, what you conceal, and what you prepare all move in harmony, directed by reason rather than emotion. Consider how this looks in real life. In a meeting where accusations are made, the untrained person defends themselves immediately, revealing insecurity. The calculated one pauses, asks a question, shifts the focus, lets others expose their thoughts before committing to a stance. In that brief delay, they gather information: who speaks first, who hesitates, who supports, who avoids. By the time they speak, they already know the terrain. That's not reaction, that's strategy. It's the Machiavellian method, making others reveal their weaknesses while you hide yours. The calculated mind sees every confrontation as an opportunity to gather leverage. Even in defeat, there is data. Even in silence, there is movement. Machiavelli believed that no loss is final if it teaches you how your opponent thinks. Calculation is not just about this moment. It's about the next 10 moments that follow. The uncalculated person fights a single battle. The strategist wins the war before the battle begins. The essence of Machiavellian calculation is simplicity hidden behind complexity. The ruler who appears straightforward is often the most dangerous because simplicity disarms suspicion. When you appear predictable, others lower their guard. When they do, you can guide their expectations and control their reactions. This is not manipulation for vanity's sake. It is the control of chaos through design. In confrontation, chaos favors the reckless. Design favors the calculated. Calculation demands patience, and patience demands confidence. You must believe that silence does not weaken you, that delay does not deny you power, that every pause is a seed planted for future advantage. When Machiavelli advised leaders to be both fox and lion, he meant this balance: the fox's intelligence and planning, and the lion's strength and execution. Calculation gives you both. It allows you to choose when to be gentle and when to strike, when to reveal truth and when to let others drown in their assumptions. The calculated player understands that the outcome of a confrontation is often decided long before the first word is spoken. It begins in preparation, in studying your opponent, in understanding their motives, in rehearsing calmness until it becomes second nature. Calculation is the invisible machinery behind composure. It is the reason your silence has weight, your confidence has gravity, your presence has influence. Turning conflict into command. Never waste the opportunity offered by a good crisis. Machiavelli would have agreed completely with this sentiment. To him, confrontation was never a disaster. It was a doorway, a test of who leads and who follows, a battlefield where emotions blur vision, and only the one who stands unshaken can see clearly enough to turn tension into power. Conflict in Machiavelli's world was not something to be avoided, it was something to be used. And every clash of wills, every disagreement, every challenge is a stage on which control can be earned if you know how to play the role. When people enter conflict, they imagine two outcomes, victory or defeat. But the Machiavellian mind knows there is a third: command. Command is not about destroying your opponent, it's about bending their energy, their emotion, their very resistance to serve your purpose. You do not silence them through force, you silence them through influence. Conflict becomes the forge where authority is created. Those who understand this truth stop fearing confrontation. They begin to shape it. Picture this moment: two people in an argument. One is angry, loud, desperate to be heard. The other is calm, precise, listening with an expression of quiet control. The loud one feels powerful, but the calm one is powerful, because the person who controls the tone controls the outcome. Machiavelli observed that human nature is guided by perception. In conflict, whoever defines what the argument means wins more than the one who wins the argument itself. The goal is not to overpower the other. It is to frame the confrontation so that even your restraint looks like dominance. This is the essence of turning conflict into command. You control the frame, not the fight. When someone shouts, you lower your voice. When they accuse, you ask a question. When they provoke, you stay silent long enough for the echo of their emotion to make them look foolish. Slowly, the energy of the confrontation shifts. They feel their power fading, not because you defeated them, but because they cannot pull you into their chaos. Machiavelli would smile at that, because he knew that real control often looks like patience. It looks like the refusal to play by the other person's rules. And here's the truth most people miss. In every confrontation, people are not fighting over facts. They are fighting over position. Who leads and who follows, who dictates the pace and who reacts. The person who remains calm sets the rhythm. The one who reacts dances to another's tune. To turn conflict into command, you must decide from the very start that you will be the composer of the encounter, not the performer. You dictate the emotional climate. You control the interpretation of every word exchanged. That control is worth more than any argument won. Machiavelli would often remind princes that a ruler must learn how not to be good. What he meant was this: you must be willing to do what is necessary, not what is comfortable. In confrontation, that means using the moment, even if it feels unpleasant, to establish your influence. If someone attacks your reputation, use it to reveal your composure. If someone underestimates you, let them, until their underestimation becomes your camouflage. Conflict offers the raw energy of power. The wise convert that energy into leverage. The transformation begins when you detach your ego from the argument. Ego fights to be right. Authority fights to remain relevant. When you no longer seek emotional victory, your mind clears. You begin to see the other person's patterns, their triggers, their insecurities, the way they justify themselves. Machiavelli would tell you that everyone exposes their weakness when they speak in anger. The longer you keep them talking while you stay silent, the more they reveal what truly drives them. Once you know that, command follows naturally. You no longer fight the person, you guide the narrative. Turning conflict into command also means controlling what others see about the conflict. Perception, again, rules power. When others witness you staying unshaken while chaos swirls, they instinctively assign you the higher ground. You become the steady figure others turn to for direction. The person who keeps their composure when everyone else loses it becomes the de facto leader, not because of title or authority, but because of presence. In the theater of confrontation, presence is power. Machiavelli knew this well. A ruler's image of stability was more valuable than his armies. Think of conflict as a mirror. It reflects who you are, but it also reflects who you pretend to be. If you pretend long enough to be unshaken, you eventually become it. The confrontation becomes your rehearsal ground. Each argument, each challenge, each clash of egos is an opportunity to reinforce your dominance through calmness, intelligence, and timing. Over time, others learn that you are not easily rattled. They begin to hesitate before confronting you. That hesitation is the moment when conflict turns into command, when others, consciously or not, accept your leadership. And let's not forget, command is not only over others, it is over yourself. Machiavelli believed that fortune bends for those who are adaptable, those who can hold their minds steady while the world shifts. In conflict, your greatest test is internal. Can you remain focused when every impulse begs you to strike? Can you calculate when every emotion urges you to react? The one who passes that test does not just win arguments. They build influence that lasts beyond the confrontation itself. To turn conflict into command, you must think like a ruler, not a soldier. The soldier fights for immediate victory. The ruler fights for control of the future. Every confrontation, no matter how small, is a chance to establish dominance in perception. You decide how others remember the moment. You decide whether they see you as composed or chaotic, as the one who leads or the one who follows. The calm strategist turns tension into loyalty, doubt into authority, and opposition into respect. Conflict ceases to be a threat. It becomes the stage upon which leadership is forged. It is not power that makes a man unshaken. It is the understanding of power. Machiavelli's lesson is not one of coldness, but of clarity. To stay unshaken in any confrontation, you must see beyond emotion, beyond impulse, beyond the noise of the moment. You must understand the hidden mechanics of power, how perception shapes reality, how composure commands respect, how calculation turns chaos into advantage, and how conflict itself can be transformed into command. When others react, you remain still. When others defend, you observe. When others chase victory, you design it. This is the way of the Machiavellian mind. Never frantic, never aimless, always aware that control begins within. The unshaken individual is not fearless. They are deliberate. They do not silence confrontation, they conduct it. Through calmness, through patience, through strategic silence, they reveal a truth few ever grasp, that the greatest power in any conflict is not in domination, but in direction. Stay calm when others burn. Stay measured when others rush. Let every confrontation become your classroom, your arena, your mirror. For in mastering yourself, you master the battlefield. And once you master the battlefield, you no longer need to fight to win.